For those of you who are actually interested why there's so much controversy behind this guy and don't really understand why, I highly suggest you stick around. Additionally, the reason why a lot of people keep trying to dismiss everything coming out against CameronF305 is because people are running with the assumption that the only issue here is that he had sex with somebody who was only 2.5 years younger than him when he was 19. That's what a lot of people are running with right now, but that's not the actual issue at hand here. The actual issue at hand here is that Cameron, based on all of the information that we have been actively seeing and digging up, stuff that he has been actively trying to hide, is trying to hide that he was attempting to run a disinformation campaign in support of Yandere Dev, a pedophile and a groomer. He has also been in various calls where he himself is actively working against the Osana Reddit, which was against Yandere Dev at the time, and trying to construct narratives to help Yandere Dev and his case, right? He corroborates this, by the way. He corroborates this. This isn't a lie. And people aren't going to actually see this. But look, most of you saw this already, but I'm going to show it to you guys anyways. Cameron corroborates that Jelly has been actively sabotaging herself in an attempt to help Yandere Dev's reputation, in an attempt to help his career, which is something that she has said on Dicker's interview, and it's something that actively lines up and is consistent with her story since then to now. It's only gonna be like 3 minutes. Just listen through this. Listen through this. For those of you that couldn't follow along last time, because last time you guys were complaining about the audio, you guys should be able to hear it a little bit better now. In this call, Cameron and Jelly are talking about the honeypotting allegation. She's saying, I never coached anyone. I never ran a honeypot. Cameron's like, I'm sorry. I feel bad for the smoking gun stuff. The smoking gun clip in question that he's referring to is an MP3 file that he sent to FPS Diesel, where she's admitting where when Cameron is asking her questions.
So then I made the honeypot rules with the most frequently asked questions.
So you didn't run one, but
I didn't run it.
You coached people on how to run one.
Listen. Cameron is asking her, you coach people on how to run one?
Yeah.
She says, yeah.
Other underage girls?
Yeah.
Jelly alleges that Cameron was coaching her during these calls to say what he wanted her to say, right? But in this call, right here,
I didn't teach anyone how to do that. I've been really mean to other e-girls.
She says, I didn't teach anybody how to do that. I've been feeling really mean to other e-girls. Now pay attention to what Cameron says. Listen closely.
I've gotten involved with that sort of business. Like, I've been horrible to them.
Yeah. I mean, I tried telling him on several occasions that
I tried telling him on several occasions. Who's him? Could he be referring to FPS Diesel?
had to do with your parents as far back as October. And I told him to reach out to you. That's on texts, that's on recordings.
I told him to reach out to you.
I've shown you that. I feel awful about the whole smoking gun clip.
I feel awful about the whole smoking gun clip. Why would he feel awful?
That made me so mad at you.
That made me so mad at you.
I know. Listen, I deleted it in early October.
I deleted it in early October.
It was there for about 3 days. And I told
it was there for about 3 days. All right, one more.
Actually, I don't think this is really what...
Actually, I told him I don't think this is what really happened. So in this case, did Cameron, if he's referring to FPS Diesel, feed FPS Diesel bad information? Do you understand why this is crazy to me? Because we need more clarity on this. Because now the idea of Cameron, like potentially, based on what Jelly said, of Cameron feeding her lines and stuff to say, that idea is not fully bullshit.
Went down, and he never let go of it, and I'd always tried to redirect it, and I told him not to include it. Because I didn't think it was a proper representation. He knows that.
It's not a proper representation.
And I said, this was around the time when she was trying to make herself look bad to me, and I don't think she was being honest with me during this time. This is when Alex was still lying to me. And I'm pretty sure he was probably talking to her behind the scenes.
I wanted to look bad because Alex said it was the only way to, like, save him is if I became unreliable and I was just a liar. If everyone...
Fuck! Do you guys... That ties everything together! We don't even have to assume anymore!
Hold on, actually, I don't...
Okay, so real quick. Just to dispel any doubts in the people that are completely unaware about this, because again, this will be turned into a VOD. This call is actively available right here. This call is actively available right here, right? You can go look at it right now. This call is actively available. You can go listen to it right now and interpret it, you know, the way, however you want to. But it's not good. It doesn't sound good. Throughout this entire call, it's essentially like, you know, further reinforcing the idea that Jelly was actively being manipulated into starting these like unreliable narratives against her so that people can then discredit her and accuse her of lying at every turn, right? Which is absolutely disgusting to me. And it's something that Cameron still utilizes to his advantage to claim that Jelly is lying. Which is incredibly important because is the narrator an unreliable narrator? Is the victim an unreliable narrator? Or is she not? And if she is, where did that idea come from? Where did that narrative that Jelly is completely unreliable and lies at every turn come from? Because that didn't manifest organically. That did not manifest organically. That was something that was plotted. That was something that was actively being worked on by, or at least the way that he alleges in this call, per his own words, something that was actively being worked on by Alex. But however, I do have this timestamp right here where Jelly further alleges that it wasn't just Alex that was engaging in this disinformation campaign to help his reputation. It was Alex and Cameron.
There's a falling out between you and Cameron, and I guess before we go on to scripting calls, is this before? Okay, you allege that calls happened between you and Cameron, and he scripted them because he was messaging you in DMs, and that's
that
apparently
was from the very start. As soon as we had
You allege that Cameron was in call, pay close attention to what Dickers is saying, because this allegation doesn't just come from nowhere. And call 3 and a couple of these calls and the way that they're being phrased, the way that she's collaborating with Cameron in these conversations to try to absolve her of guilt and her negative reputation, and also absolve Cameron of guilt and his negative reputation, it makes this a lot more believable. This makes a lot more sense. At first, I took this with a grain of salt. I was completely baffled at how this could be the case, right? But it's not completely unsubstantiated.
Group chat with Alex. Alex was telling us the narrative he wanted. Cameron was like, they were going back and forth. Like, Alex would say, I want you to paint me in this light. And Cameron would say, well, I can't do that because you already admitted to it, but I can do this instead. So they were like doing their whole PR thing. And I was just along for the ride, and I felt really guilty about what I did to Alex. So I was listening. I was like, damn, sorry, I kind of ruined your career. The least I can do is make you look better.
Okay, this detail is important. This detail right here is important because now you have to explain, why would she jeopardize her reputation for Cameron then? And the reason why is because Jelly is an incredibly, or at least the way we see this, like the way we see here, is a somewhat sympathetic individual, right? The only reason why she's come out now is because Cameron keeps lying and misrepresenting her. So Jelly actively participates in these calls with Cameron in an attempt to sort of absolve themselves of any guilt because she doesn't want Cameron's reputation to be damaged either. But I think that that's fair. I think that's actually a fair assessment of who she is. She, like, if you take a second to listen through these calls, which I have in full, you will notice that she is actively like working alongside Cameron to make response videos against, you know, people from r/Osana in an attempt to sort of clear Cameron's name. She is actively saying things against Krexa, right? Somebody who Cameron also misrepresents her former roommate, or his former roommate, in an attempt to absolve himself of any guilt. And we have also actively been seeing Cameron lie about the Krexa stuff and even misrepresent her by misrepresenting a police report. And and that's where this Twitter thread right here will come in. So look, Sick Unchained posts this Reddit thread. CameronF305 has been exposed by Y-Tier Rao Live for using a police report about his roommate to slander one of his accusers, Krexa, as being violently abusive.
She acted like I was charging at her at the time in her document, when in reality I was walking over and just trying to figure out what to do.
This is bullshit, by the way. This is bullshit, because when we go to the police report right here, right?
Official document that I have.
This is the police report he utilizes in his response against Krexa, a alleged former victim of his. And I have to say, to be clear, alleged, because who knows exactly what happened between them. As far as we know, Krexa only accused Cameron of being a creepy, unhinged weirdo.
Okay? The only thing that's censored on the document that I have is the combination to his gun safe, where he has a handgun.
For this, I let the officer know everything that from the get-go, how she moved in, the choking incident. He told me to record everything to cover my bases and to get her out as soon as possible for the safety of everyone there, which doesn't align with what she has said, but does align with the police report. As it turns out, she has a violent record.
Which is a lie, because this police report isn't actually about Krexa. It's about his roommates, as Morale will go on to explain. So this whole narrative about Krexa being unhinged in her own right, being a psychotic bitch, which is corroborated by Jelly, by the way, is a narrative that he spread by misrepresenting this. If we go into these calls, and some of these calls, Jelly will call Krexa unhinged. Why could that be the case? Does she actually know that Krexa's unhinged? Or did Cameron present this information to Jelly as well in an attempt to get more than one person aside with him against Krexa, to make it seem as if Krexa was actually unhinged? Very curious. Very, very curious stuff. Very, very curious stuff.
Lie. This is a lie.
In the past, she has threatened a group of people with violence and was institutionalized or Baker acted in 2016.
That is a lie.
These were facts that I didn't know entirely.
That is a lie. Cameron censors this and tries to play it off like this is about Krexa. This is not about Krexa. This right here is about Cameron's roommate. Now, let's note what.
By the way, I can confidently say that multiple of us have seen this police report. We can corroborate what Mao is saying. Not just Mao who's come to this conclusion. It's a couple of us. It's a few of us, because we have access to this police report. We've seen it.
See how he censored all of that? All of this right here? Because if he didn't, it would say black male. It would say black male. And this would prove that it's not about Krexa, because correct me if Krexa is not a black male. Krexa is a white woman. Oh, presumably. Okay? Presumably. So, Cameron's roommate, black male, has shown violent tendencies via social media towards a select group of people, and Baker acted in 2016 at location for 29A threats. Use extreme caution. Multiple units should respond to the location. Now, what is a 29A threat? A 29A threat is a credible threat of violence. Right? Now, again, what that means is a 29A threat is a threat of violence that is to be taken seriously. The cops believe that this person is going to do a threat of violence. Cameron lies about this. He tries to play off his roommate's violent tendencies as if it is Krexa's. He fucks with a police document, maliciously censors it, and then tries to play it off like this is about Krexa when it's not. So this is them saying that they found the situation. They found Krexa, who has an alias called Luna, who had a pocket knife, and then they also had Cameron, who has a gun in a safe, which he censors. I don't know why he censored that he has a gun. Not sure why.
Cameron has been lying at every point in turn to try to skirt away from it, like what I believe to be at this point somewhat credible allegations against him. Now let's see what else Sick has to say. Krexa claims against Cameron were that he was verbally abusive and would abuse her around during arguments anytime she tried to disengage. When it initially came out, he used the report against his own roommate to say that she was being abusive to him. He darvos this entire situation to hurt her, and people just buy it because Cameron censored enough information about his roommate to be able to pretend the report is against Krexa. That is an incredibly accurate summary of what is occurring here. right? Because in order to actually get down to the bottom of this, you'd have to go through hours and hours of research to actually understand why this is unhinged, to actually understand where Cameron has lied, and you'd have to like also go through Jelly's accusations and see some of Jelly's I want to say evidence she provided firsthand. Blah 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 blah. Right? So we're going to basically be going over some of the most glaring stuff, and I'll turn this into a video so that people have like a somewhat decent jumping off point before so we have like a decent jumping off point before everybody else starts releasing their videos. Because there's a lot of investigation going on right now. Plenty of people are currently working on their own videos. Like, plenty of people are currently doing a lot of research. A lot of this is not, a lot of this isn't just unsubstantiated stuff that Cameron is claiming, that Cameron is claiming is supposed to be, like, rumors or lies, right? That's just how he is trying to brush everything off, which is, completely idiotic. It's not going to work. Eventually, more and more people are going to start digging into Cameron. And it's already begun. It's not just us anymore. It's not just a handful of us that have actively been getting more and more information. It's a bunch of other people that are going back, like, years and finding stuff on this guy. So, at this point, I think it is a good... at this point, I think it would be okay to watch through most of the Content Deputy and get to the Noah Samsen stuff. And then, when we get to the Noah Samsen stuff, where he utilizes some of these calls, we can start digging some more. And I'll start doing some cross-referencing.
Like how Noah and Hassan have no problem parroting these false allegations against me based on an out-of-context phone call, yet constantly deny actual rapes when it has to do...
It's funny because he calls this phone call out of context, but he does nothing to elaborate on the context.
with the conflict between Israel-Palestine when their side is the one at fault for them. Instead of that, let me do no...
What is that argument even supposed to convey?
Noah and Hassan have no problem parroting these false allegations against me based on an out-of-context phone call, yet constantly deny actual rapes when it has to do with the conflict between Israel-Palestine when their side is the one at fault for them. Instead of that, let me do Noah a favor. Hey Noah, nice hair. Let me be very clear. I did not rape or sexually assault anyone. For context...
Which, to be clear, is not an allegation that Jelly made. That was never an allegation that Jelly made. That is an allegation that other people made after hearing Jelly's story. That is not an allegation that Jelly made, which is an incredibly important distinction to have here. Okay? As a matter of fact, even in the Dickers interview, Jelly doesn't allege that Cameron sexually assaulted her. She just retells us like a story of an uncomfortable sexual experience that she had with Cameron after Cameron tried making a move on her.
This all goes back to a short fling I had over a year and a half.
This all goes back to a short fling I had over a year ago. Okay, this is also an important thing to nitpick because this is also a layer of dishonesty because Jelly never acknowledges Cameron as being even close to something as, I want to say, something as close as innocent as even a romantic partner. If we go over to the Dickers interview.
You met up twice for the interviews. You didn't have sex during them. There wasn't a hookup. And it was in the subsequent 2 times that you started to develop, I guess, somewhat, what would you call it? Like a situationship? An emotional relationship?
I don't know why he keeps calling it that. We did not have a relationship. I was never at any point romantic with Cameron. Cameron was into me, and I was still, at the time, screenshotting stuff and sending it to Krexa, being like, ugh, look at this. Because we were making fun of him, and I was still talking to Krexa. But, no, we didn't have anything romantic. We were hanging out in a motel.
And was this in...
That was also
this was in November?
For an interview. No, that was later, I think.
December 22nd? Does that sound right?
I don't know the dates. One was Thanksgiving break, one was Christmas break. That's why I sent you the location data, because I do not remember the dates.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So I guess the second trip that you sent.
Okay. Let me look at the timeline really quick, actually.
Yeah, sorry, you're on a live stream asking you about specific dates and specific times.
Essentially, she alleges that there was no sexual interaction, right? At least not one in the sense of like sexual assault or rape. She, however, does allege that Cameron came on to her. Yeah, right here.
You met up. Cool. And so you've moved to the bed.
Right here. This is what she alleges, by the way.
When he was trying to be weird, that was picking you up and trying to, I think you said in your Blue Sky post, put your vulva to his face.
Yeah, he was like trying to pull down my sweatpants, and he was.
Yeah, it's.
He was just being freaky.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry if you feel like I'm asking a question that you don't want to answer, or if you're kind of want to say give less details, feel free to tell me, and I can rephrase it if you'd like. Because obviously it's uncomfortable to talk about some
No,
of this.
you're fine. I don't know. It's gonna be awkward no matter how you ask it.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so then he takes you home. When did the kiss happen?
Because this is where it starts getting more confusing. We're gonna pause right here because this will come up a little bit later, and I'll even point towards the Aiden interview
ago with someone 2.5 years younger than me. After a falling out,
which is the issue. Nobody ever cared about the fact, even in FPS Diesel's video, nobody even cared about the fact that you hooked up with somebody 2.5 years younger than you. Maybe a very select few did and latched on to that point, but that wasn't the legitimate issue here. The issue here, Cameron, is that you claimed to FPS Diesel that you had sex with this girl, and then later on you attempt to confront FPS Diesel and change the narrative to claim that you were being blackmailed into saying that. By the way, we haven't found any evidence of that blackmail, so we don't even know if that's true or not. And then you try to tell FPS Diesel that you didn't have sex with this girl. And now I'm starting to lean into the direction that perhaps Cameron lied about having sex with this girl since the very beginning. For what reason? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows why he lied about that? It just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
DM'd several people and falsely accused me.
Not to mention, he also attempted to ask FPS Diesel to retract certain parts of his previous video on Cameron because he didn't want to be affected when his content cop dropped with all of that stuff from his past. He even says that he even says in a call with FPS Diesel that he doesn't want something he did when he was 18, 19 years old with a 17-year-old, which is a complete lie, by the way. Because the girl wasn't 17 to, I want to say haunt him now. Why was he fibbing on the ages? Well, it's obviously because he didn't want to make himself look worse than he already does by hooking up with somebody, allegedly, per his claims. Allegedly, per his claims. That was, a grooming victim of Yandere Dev. And to reiterate from earlier, a grooming victim that he was manipulating on several occasions to run a self-sabotaging campaign on herself to make her claims seem unreliable as hell so that Yandere Dev's reputation isn't damaged as much as she would like. Isn't damaged as much as they would have liked.
Me of sexual assault without any proof.
I'm really open and honest about what I've done. I lied about you in private.
Okay, it's really important. It's really important to focus on this because he takes this call, which I'm pretty sure isn't available in his Google Drives. I don't know where this audio comes from. That's in call 3. That's in call 3. How did I not fucking push? How did I not put 2 and 2 together before? How did I not fucking put this together? Oh, holy fuck. Holy fuck. Give me one moment. Cameron lied. Definitively. We that part right there. That part right here. That part right here is a definitive fucking lie. This part right here is a definitive lie. He's taking this call out of context to make it seem as if she's admitting to lying about this guy sexually assaulting her. I just realized. I thought that call hasn't been released. It has been released. But she's not referring to her lying about sexual assault in that clip at all.
Didn't actually do research.
No.
She didn't ask me hey, is this you? Because I've had things where it's here, this is me and this isn't me. I'm not denying all of the 4chan stuff. I was on there. I said some really weird stuff about Starlight Glimmer. Because, if I was a horse, I would.
I don't even think you'd have to be a horse.
But No, she's
He's a pony.
but yeah, I didn't. There's stuff that I've done, and then there's stuff that I haven't done, and I'm just so
Look,
sick and tired
I don't
of
think
people accusing me of stuff that I haven't done. I'm really open and honest about what I've done. I lied about you in private. I did, and I admitted that. And that's fine, but I'm not lying about the honeypot stuff. Like, I didn't teach anyone how to do that. I'm not demented.
Yeah, that's not her admitting to lying about a sexual assault. That's not her admitting to lying about a sexual assault specifically. That's her complaining about the honeypot stuff still. He completely misrepresented that. He completely misrepresents this. That call that he's utilizing, he took out of context from call 3, where she's complaining about how Cameron utilized the honeypot stuff against her. This is fucking bogus. This is fucking bogus, and people are gonna fucking eat this up.
I did, but I wasn't trying to imply that.
Where did I get that video? He posted it himself. He posted it himself. If you want to go, look at this right now and cross-reference how he's taking some of this stuff out of context. Here's a drive. He's like obviously splicing stuff to make it appear as if she's lying about sexual assault, and he's taking this out of context where this call right here, where she says that she lied about so many different things in private, where the lie could be anything, not specific to sexual assault, to make it appear as if she was being completely dishonest the entire time and lied about a sexual assault allegation that she never made. But this clip comes from somewhere else. You can't find it? I can't find it either. This audio comes from somewhere completely unknown to us. She admits to lying. But what does she admit to lying to? What does she admit to lying to? Because because what follows this is another clip. Listen to this.
I did, but I wasn't trying to imply that.
No, notice the shift in tone, notice the shift in cadence, right? Notice the obvious cut.
Like, you assaulted me.
Then
Okay, to be clear, when she admits to lying, based on the fact that this is obviously out of context, this lie could mean just about everything. I mean, could mean just about anything. Did she lie about rape? Who knows? Although I'm unwilling to believe that she did lie about Cameron raping her. Because Jelly, again, never accused Cameron of being a rapist or sexually assaulting her. That is not an accusation that she made. That is not an accusation that she made, to be clear. So, in this case, either this is one of those cases where Jelly was calling with Cameron in an attempt to absolve him of any guilt, or this is one of those cases where Jelly is admitting to lying about other things unrelated to the sexual interaction in the past, right? But this is just my speculation. Take my speculation as you will. Take my speculation with a grain of salt. I'm not claiming this is a definitive fact. This is just my theory. But I will say that a lot of my theories in regards to this have been right so far. For those of you who have been around of me covering this from the beginning, a lot of my theories have been correct so far. So this could either be one of those scripted calls that she's referring to, which I'm not willing to fully believe, or she's admitting to lying about something else. Now,
What I've done. I lied about you in private.
I lied about you in private, but let's listen to this again.
Did, but I wasn't trying to
Okay, here's where it's obviously two different clips.
imply that, you assaulted me.
then
Okay, but I wasn't trying to imply that you assaulted me. This is carefully crafted by Cameron to try to make it seem as if Jelly lied about him being a rapist or a sexual assaulter, when that's not an allegation that she ever made, right? What he's doing here is intentional disinformation to make it seem as if Jelly was the one who accused him of doing these things, and then make it seem as if Jelly lied about these accusations to discredit everything, to discredit any sort of onlook or scrutiny that he might be getting from anybody. Okay, now there's something that I have to show you guys as well. There's something that I have to show you guys as well in regards to this. The reason why I'm arguing what I'm arguing right now is because of this. Because, again, if you go back down the history, if you go back down like all of the information, Jelly never accused Cameron of being an SAer or a rapist. At least not publicly. And this was Jelly's statement, which aligns consistently throughout the Dickers interview and several things in the past as well that I've gone out of my way to look for. But if we take a look at this screenshot, pay attention to this. So, Anne, from your perspective, what happened? You guys hook up, a recording is taken, everything is chill till you feel Cameron fucked you over. You accuse him, and then, what's it called? Retract when you guys work everything out behind closed doors. Is that correct? Not quite. I didn't make any public accusations, which so far is incredibly consistent with all of the information that she's been given out, right? Her story is consistent. I haven't found any discrepancy with this. That detailed what he did. I found out him and a girl named Eve were doing stuff at the same time when he claimed to be exclusive with me. So we were talking about how much of a bitch he is and sharing stories of the weird stuff he did / lied about. And then I told those same silly stories to Keith. He pointed out that they were kind of illegal, especially where he tried to eat me out, and I didn't want to do so. So I had to start hitting him and stuff so he would put me down. Now, keep in mind, this story from way back, I believe this was, hold on. This was initially presented in, from way back, I don't know if this was like early, I believe this was like early, I believe this would have been like around early 2024, maybe late 2023. But this can be found from all the way back to like around like, you know, the initial Yandere dev stuff. This story is consistent. It is consistent since then, because even in the Dickers interview, where she would have had years, and I mean years, to carefully craft her story, so that there wouldn't be like, you know, any contradictions, or years and years, so she would have like forgotten this story. This remains consistent. It doesn't change in any way, and it isn't modified in any way. If anything, what she says is that they were at a motel. Cameron picked her up and tried eating her out. Right? That's in the interview. That is in the interview. These stories remain consistent from the time of the screenshot, whenever this screenshot was, from back in 2024, to now. And when I was like, oh, that's like a whole ass crime, so I posted about it. Cam was being sleazy and got caught. He apologized and fixed it. It wasn't rape. I don't think it fits the definition. There was no forceful penetration, and Alex was mad that he got cucked by his former employee, so he played into the Cameron bad narrative. I'm over it. I forgive him. It isn't a huge deal, right? So, Cameron is heavily poisoning the well and doing some insane manipulation of information here to try to make it seem as if Jelly definitively made a false rape accusation and then admitted she lied about it when that isn't accurate at all. Could she have potentially made a misleading claim in that tweet back in the day? Yes, but does that actually imply? Does that actually mean that there was a rape allegation? Does that actually mean that there was a rape allegation since then? No, that doesn't mean anything. And according to Jelly, in the Dickers interview, the person, and by the way, this is consistent as well, it was somebody else who made the allegation of rape. And I believe this is also in the calls that he released. It was somebody else. It was other people who were making the rape accusations based on Jelly's, like, you know, claims. It wasn't her. I'm pretty sure this is present in at least 2 of these calls. Perhaps call 4. So, take that as you will. Cameron is heavily manipulating the narrative here. And I mean heavily.
In an apparent attempt to fabricate evidence, she called me and started recording mid-conversation talking about a consensual hookup. She then suddenly shifted the topic to an awkward hug that we had, where I picked her up. This had made her uncomfortable because she had past trauma related to being picked up. Of course, while talking, she deliberately left out the context of the hug to make it sound like an awkward sexual encounter, essentially twisting 2 completely unrelated moments together to make it seem like I admitted to something that I never did.
He's just being completely dishonest here, by the way. I know what call this is from.
I put you down. It's not sexual.
I had like a Spurg freak out.
Alright, call 2. It's call 2. It is call 2. Let's listen to this call in full real quick. It is only 5 minutes long. And then we'll go back to this.
You and I, you've said it a million times,
I'm not being sexually abused. I just want to go fishing and hang out with Austin. And then I gotta sit around my house all day. And I can't leave because what if they show up and I'm not home and then they freak out about stuff because they're always calling in. People are always calling in saying something new. So I bet they have a huge file on me that I'm like a flight risk and stuff because of all the reports they get. But I'm not, and I don't want to get in any trouble for anything. I don't know what to do. I'm not being abused.
I know.
I'm sorry. I should have kept you blocked, but I needed to just let you know that cops are probably going to show up trying to investigate you for stuff. So
All right, right here. Right here. I'm sorry. I should have kept you blocked, but I needed to contact you to tell you that the cops are probably going to show up to investigate you for stuff. Now, again, Jelly has a record of not wanting the people that she has, talked to, such as Cameron and Yandere Dev. She has a record of not wanting them to, get absolutely fucked more than she believes is fair. Because she feels bad for them.
I don't know, get ready to deal with them, but you're not going to get in any trouble because you didn't do anything.
I know.
You're not going to get in any trouble because you didn't do anything.
I'm so tired of them showing up.
I know. I'm
Like, she's breaking down because people keep making, CPS reports on her saying that she's being abused by her dad. That's the context of this.
This will be over soon. That's why I'm still making the follow-up, okay?
See, right here they're talking about how this will all be over soon. Cameron's saying that's why I'm making a follow-up to all of this, because he's actively attempting to, construct narratives, make response videos that would absolve Cameron and her of any of this wrongdoing, so that Cameron stops being, accused of being a malicious sex pest around the time of r/Osana making posts against him. And Jelly, by the way, to also absolve Jelly of any crime, or to absolve Jelly of any scrutiny for her being an unreliable narrator who's being sexually assaulted by her dad. That's the exact reason why I'm still making the follow-up, because he wants to absolve her of any guilt that she's facing from onlookers. Who are these CPS calls from? Who knows? It could be a list of anybody in this case.
I'm sorry they're still harassing you. I thought this would be over by now.
I don't want to have to talk to you because
I know.
I don't want to have to talk to you.
We need space from one another.
I don't want to talk to you
I know.
because I'm with him and he doesn't want us talking.
I don't want to talk to you because I'm with him and he doesn't want us talking. I wonder why that's the case. And by the way, she's talking right now about a person that she was actually legitimately romantically involved with.
But I don't know what to do to prevent this stuff from happening.
I know, and that's completely respectable. He doesn't want you talking to any guy friends. It makes sense.
But it's necessity.
I do think we do need space from one another just as friends because
I think we do need space from one another just as friends because, okay, see, this is further corroborating that these people didn't have any romantic interest in each other. And as a matter of fact, real quick, just to tack onto this, when we go to the calls on this drive and then go towards the end of some of these calls, like she'll say, "I love you." And then Cameron will try to reciprocate. And then Jelly's quick to be like, not like that, not in a romantic way, in an appreciative way. So they're not romantically involved with each other. It's quiet as fuck. I know. I'm sorry. I'll probably up the audio when I make my VOD.
Through a lot.
I don't know what to do. The cops just keep getting called for stuff. I'm not being abused by anyone. Nothing is happening.
Pay attention to this context right here. Because she's referring to her being accused of being sexually abused by her dad. So pay attention to that, knowing those details.
Did they say I raped you or something, or?
Did they say I raped you or something? This is a leading question by Cameron. Because he's referencing police activity or police involvement in this. Did they reference I raped you or something?
I don't know. It was sexual abuse. I don't know what the hell.
I don't know. It was sexual abuse. What could that mean? In this context, that could be referencing to anything. Are the police or investigators in this case asking if she was sexually abused by someone? And by someone, could that mean Cameron? Could that be her dad? Could that be other individuals?
What that means? It could be anything from touching a titty.
It could be anything from touching a titty to
Forcible rape.
forcible rape.
They're so vague with this stuff, so that they investigate it all.
There is no vague with this stuff, so they investigate it all. Because the police are actively trying to get down to the bottom of what occurred between her and whoever, like, you know, it is that people are claiming sexually abused her.
Fine.
I picked you up, and they're trying to make that sexual.
I picked you up, and they're trying to make that sexual.
God.
I literally I didn't know you didn't like being picked up. I put you down. It's not sexual.
I had like a Spurg freak out, and they're acting like I had a rational response.
I had like a Spurg freak out, and they're acting like I had a rational response, referencing police enforcement.
And we settled it in private, and then it got public because you were upset
We settled it in private, and then it got public.
at me.
Because you were upset at me. Okay, so, this right here, when we listen to this, it's heavily miscontextualized.
And they're acting like I had a rational response.
Yeah, I didn't know that picking you up was going to trigger your PTSD. I didn't know that. You didn't tell me that. And you said that.
Talking about the hug, to be clear, Jelly has made comments about this. She says that she doesn't know where the hugging during the parking lot narrative even came from. Because that's not what occurred, according to her. Right here, right here, right here. This is where they start discussing it. At 18 minutes, we can listen to these next 2 minutes.
Okay. Fair play. Fair play.
But yeah, so I was like, no, I'm not interested. And he was like, you know, I really like eating girls out. And I was like, okay, I'm not interested. And I gave him a whole bunch of reasons why. Just like mostly, I'm not into it. Especially not with someone who looks like him. So I just repeatedly was telling him, like, no, I'm not really into that. And he was like, no, you'll be fine. And I was like, no, leave me alone. No, I'm not doing that. And he picked me up, like physically lifted me and tried to move my pants and put me down on his face. And I was kicking him because, like, what the fuck? You can't just do that.
So you were,
So
at
he
this
was
time, you were in a hotel
unsuccessful.
room with him. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a motel.
Okay.
I don't know how many times we went there. I think we went there twice. Once because after the interview in the car, it was noisy because it was a car.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And so
I think.
he said, I guess this was the second time that you met up, and the first time that you second time you met up was the first time you went to the motel, and he said he wanted to go there because that would have better sound quality.
Yes.
Okay. And so, I guess the third time you meet up, you're going around Dunkin' Donuts, hanging out. He's being pushy. Is that before you're in the hotel room? Or is that after you get in there and you're alone together?
Looking back, he was talking a lot about Crexa and that stuff, so I think he was hinting to it all day, but I am formally diagnosed with autism. I do not pick up on hints. So, in retrospect, I have no idea what kind of messages he was sending me subtly.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. Listen, if you need to like take a breather when I ask you like a question to like record the details, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. It's yeah. Anyway, so you get into the motel room, and then he starts to be kind of a little bit pushy, or he starts trying to take things in a certain direction between the two of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went home really quickly after. I think I had said something really bitchy to him, and he took me home because he was mad at me.
And this was after sex?
No. It was after he attempted to put me on his face.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean after the I guess the sexual encounter. Pardon me. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, because the way that I guess you'll be aware that the way that he's phrased this is that you were alone, but you're in a parking lot, and then he tried to pick you up to hug you. But
Okay, this part right here is important. This part right here is important. Because this is what Cameron is attempting to... This is the narrative that Cameron is attempting to paint here. By utilizing this call out of context.
it was non-sexual.
I don't know why he's telling people that. I think it's just because that's the only thing he can come up with that fits the context of the call.
Okay.
But that never happened.
Okay.
That's what Jelly claims about that call.
Okay. So I guess just to lay it out in one kind of like thing, you walk into the motel room together. What goes on from that point?
I'm sorry, can you repeat all of that?
Yeah, sure thing. Sorry if it feels like I'm
looking at
looping.
the
I just want to make sure that I've got
chat. I'm sorry.
Don't read the chat. I'm telling you, okay?
No, in your Discord.
This is very, very... How long are you there? What happens while you're in there? Give me a little bit of like an insight to that.
It was dark the whole time I was there, so I don't remember how long it was. The Google timeline should show you when I got home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that shows my whole visit. I just remember that he did that right before he took me home.
Okay. Let me
I said something really mean.
So according to her, right, this hug that he's referencing is just a story that he's crafted to try to like fit the narrative, to try to fit the context of this call, right? So who knows exactly what's going on here? Who knows who's really like telling the truth in this case? That's where I'll be highly skeptical and even play a little bit of defense for Cameron. But it's important to note that given like how consistent Jelly's story is versus Cameron's, I'm more inclined to believe Jelly. Because why would Jelly in this call talk about how she's getting like a traumatic, like how she's giving a traumatic response, how she's giving a traumatic response from being picked up. Now, let's listen to the rest of this, because there's also an audio that I want to like, cross-reference with all of this.
And we've talked about it, and I still feel awful about it.
Yeah, we talked. It's none of their fucking business.
It had nothing to do with sex. And after her little self-admitted manic episode, she publicly expressed multiple times that I never sexually assaulted her. Have I ever sexually assaulted you, or hurt you, or raped you, or done anything nefarious to you?
No, but I bet I know which subreddit is claiming those things.
That her allegations only came from a manic episode and tried to deflect everything else because of that. That pissed me off more than anything he said about me.
This is also out of context, to be clear.
It did come from a manic episode. That was my words, not yours.
And also, this ties back to the little presentation that I gave you guys a second ago about the initial calls where she's like saying, oh, I didn't actually mean to imply that he raped me. Because that is consistent. We also hear this in the Dickers interview. She did not mean to imply that this guy was like, a sexual assaulter or rapist. As we saw we see in this screenshot. People just misinterpreted her initial words.
Exactly. You said it, not me.
I confess to you that I thought I might have BPD because of it. Like, I'm coming to these conclusions myself. You're not just pulling stuff out of your ass to make yourself look better. I'm the one who came to you and told you that.
I have long since distanced myself from this person, obviously. Not only were these accusations disproven over a year and a half ago, even the person who made—
They weren't disproven. They weren't disproven. They were just misinterpreted.
The dog shit video resurfacing these allegations.
All right, now before we move on, by the way, before we move on from this, let's check out this audio, which Cameron claims was being used to fish for out of context information where he can be incriminated. All right, let's take a listen to this. Let's take a listen to this.
He said that you did nothing wrong?
Well, in a legal standpoint.
From a legal standpoint.
All right, I'm going to answer what you're saying, Chris, because it's actually important, because this is a question that a lot of fucking morons keep asking. And what are the things that are bad about him? He's not a pedophile. He didn't assault anyone, supposedly. Why do we care? Not a gotcha, just curious. The reason why we care is because even if he didn't assault anybody, we have repeatedly seen him, by the way, and this call is going to be pertinent to that. The reason why we care is because Cameron has been lying about the nature of these allegations from the very beginning. He's been lying about the nature of a grooming victim from the very beginning. He has colluded with her to self-sabotage her reputation, to run defense for a groomer, pedophile, right? Notorious one at that, which is incredibly gross in its own right. It's incredibly irresponsible. You're telling me that you've been manipulating this girl, and we have examples of this within your own call 3, to be clear, about you like misrepresenting Jelly and even attempting to retract said information that you gave to somebody about Jelly because you didn't find it you didn't find it to be an accurate representation of her. We have like a bunch of examples of Cameron obviously taking advantage of what seems to be an unstable grooming victim at the time to run cover for him and Yandere Dev. Even if he didn't sexually assault anybody, even if he didn't rape anybody, we do have multiple examples where he's been crossing boundaries, has been testing those boundaries, has been acting inappropriately with people, and then shifts the narrative, poisons the well so much where it's impossible to get down to the bottom of any of these issues. I feel like it's just so confusing for the average person. It almost looks like grasping at straws. Yes, and that's the issue. That's the issue. That is the issue. Because that's exactly what he wants. That is what he's attempting. That is literally what he's been crafting the entire time. He's been actively utilizing this Jelly person to sabotage her own self-image, and then by proxy sabotage other individuals claims, and coverage about him so that any criticism that you could actually utilize against him or any scrutiny that can be acted upon towards him can just be thrown out the window by saying, look at all these dishonest, malicious individuals. The average person won't understand, which is why I'm compiling all of this right now to at least showcase some very, very like glaring examples of Cameron being an incredibly malicious actor who has been lying and like essentially coercing this girl into lying for him as well from the very beginning to attempt to get out of all of these allegations scot-free. Now, am I saying that Cameron is actually a incredibly malicious sexual abuser of any kind? No, that's not what is important about, about all of this here. But that's what people are going to run from. Just because he didn't sexually abuse anybody in any way, shape, or form doesn't mean that he is not an incredibly disgusting, dubious individual that should not be trusted by anybody, who should not have any credibility, because he has a repeated history of lying about these things, which in and of itself is incredibly dangerous. It is incredibly gross. I would go as far as to say that this is worse. This is significantly worse than the idea of him having sex with a minor. Not in the pedophilic sense, but in the irresponsible sense. Like it is incredibly gross. It is so gross. That's why this is important. That is why this is important. And people will continue to blindly defend a character like this, who, in my honest opinion, has no place in a community like this. These type of people are dangerous. These type of people will lie about people in the future. These type of people will make incredibly, manipulative responses to stuff. People will eat it up and never understand what exactly the problem is. Let's be so real, though. He's going to get away with it, especially if H3 supports him. If H3 supports him, and then people start doing more research on him and digging into this stuff because people have been compiling more more explanations to this stuff. H3 will take a shot, H3 will take a huge hit to his credibility and reputation by proxy of Cameron. So if H3 is smart, he'll do a background check on this guy. People will look into this coverage if they actually care. And H3 will drop him, at least silently. It's disgusting. It's going to be covered up as false allegations, just like Pyro got away with it. You know what? Thank you for pointing that out. This is worse than the Pyro situation, in my opinion. This is worse than John Swan. This is worse than, a whole bunch of other things that people have been, clamoring at the last couple of years to, showcase an example of dishonest behavior. This is probably one of the worst cases I have seen on YouTube in fucking years. In regards to this clip, again, listen to this. Listen if this really sounds like him being set up to say stuff out of context, so that his guilt can be cemented.
I was saying no, and I was scared, and that I didn't want to.
No, just in the sense of us having sex, and that can be argued because once I heard you say stop, I put you down.
Once I heard you say stop, I put you down. In the sense of us having sex, that can be argued. Because once you said stop, I put you down. So what is this narrative about a hug again?
I don't think I was.
I
don't think I was.
Maybe I wasn't hearing correctly. But
Maybe I wasn't hearing correctly.
Telling you, I did not hear the word stop, and until I did, I put you down.
I did not hear the word stop until I did.
And I felt awful because you were once you started squirming a bit, I felt
Squirming?
Once you started squirming a bit.
You're gonna call it squirming? I was hitting you.
I was hitting you.
Were you?
Were you?
What the fuck? Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I didn't. I don't know. Obviously I wasn't intending to do something bad to you. And I feel bad about it.
I wasn't intending to do anything bad to you. I feel bad about it.
But that's between us, and that's not going to be public.
But that's between us, and that's not going to be public.
What about how I spent like 5 minutes telling you that I didn't want to kiss you, and then
What about when I spent 5 minutes telling you that I didn't want to kiss you?
you wouldn't let me go?
And you wouldn't let me go. Now, this is in reference to the car conversation, right? Which Cameron is framing as her attempting to shift the subject on something else to implicate him. He's being incredibly dishonest here. They already discussed the sexual interaction, right? He admits that he heard her say stop, he put her down, presumably while he was like, being pushy and attempting to do something to her, as we heard here. Like they're obviously moving on from subjects, and now this doesn't sound like somebody trying to get Cameron in a gotcha. This sounds like a genuine conversation.
Haven't we already been over this?
Haven't we already been over this?
I feel horrible about that, and it was only because I wanted to spend more time with you. I wasn't trying to force you to do something.
But you can't just act like you didn't do anything wrong.
That's the first thing I said to you. Like you said, I didn't do anything wrong in the sense of anything illegal, and in regards to the idea of us having sex, and that's all that.
I just want to make sure that that there wasn't anything illegal in the regards of us having sex.
In regards to the idea of us having sex, anything. You said I didn't do anything wrong in the sense of anything illegal, and
that doesn't necessarily mean, and we can tie this back to the call 2, right? Where Cameron is to call 2, where Cameron is where Cameron and Jelly are discussing about people investigating him for potential accusations of rape, right? He's just concerned about they're just concerned about him not being legally liable for sexual assault. Which, again, if we go back to these screenshots and we tie everything together, that's probably not what the allegation is. That's probably not what the claims are, right? The claims aren't that he actually broke the law. The claims are that he was being sleazy and gross towards her, which is where this confrontation is coming from, right? So when we take all of this, it heavily recontextualizes some of the stuff that he's saying here about him framing this call, where she's admitting to him not doing anything wrong, because maybe he didn't do anything wrong from a legal sense, but that doesn't mean that he didn't do anything wrong from a personal sense.
In regards to the idea of us having sex, and that's all I was talking about. Not that between. That's why I said obviously between us. I know I made mistakes.
I know I made mistakes. He only cares about not being implicated of a crime. However, he is acknowledging that perhaps he did make a couple of mistakes in regards to Jelly. Isn't that interesting?
And I feel horrible for them, because I broke a boundary that I didn't realize I was breaking, and I feel awful.
You didn't realize you were breaking it? Me telling you that I didn't
I broke a boundary I didn't realize I was breaking. And I feel awful.
want to, and that I was scared and not to grab me. That... Okay.
If you were
And I was scared and not to grab me? Now, does that sound like a hug to you? Or does that sound like what they're referring to in this interview? Again, be highly skeptical of this. Even I'm highly skeptical of this. I am speculating. Take that as you will. Not take what I'm what I'm laying down here as a matter of fact in any way, shape, or form. Come to your own conclusions.
Hold on, wait. Obviously, after the fact, once I put you down, I realized what was happening. There was a reason I put you down.
There was a reason I put you down.
Because I was hitting you.
Because I was hitting you.
You might have been.
You might have been.
I personally don't remember that, but you might have been. I'm
Might
not gonna
have?
rule it out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm genuine when I say I do not remember that.
All right. Now, I have a link to this that sort of expands more on this from the mouth of Cameron himself. From the mouth of Cameron himself. You guys remember the Aiden interview? Do you guys remember the Aiden interview? Check this out. Check this out. Check this out.
First, she was like, no, I'm really worried. I want to get home. I was like, dude, we'll be fine. Like, I was trying to be persuasive. I wanted to spend more time.
Yeah, I was trying to be persuasive. I wanted to spend more time with her in regards to, like, you know, the whole conversation they were talking about right here in the center.
Go.
You wouldn't let me go? You recall that?
With her. She said I was being pushy, felt bad about it, said I'm sorry. And that was that. And then she kept bringing it up later on, and I'm like, we've been over this. Like, I'm sorry that it felt like you were forced to kiss me. I wasn't trying to make it seem that way. That's kind of what she felt in her head, I guess. So I apologized for it.
Well, what happened? What happened first? The kiss, and then you were trying to spend more time with her, or then
spend more time than the kiss.
Okay, because at the start it sounded like you kissed her, and then you wanted to spend more time.
No.
So the 5 minutes of you trying to convince her, the kiss happened after that.
Yeah, and then we went home. And then after we went home, I texted her, said, hey, you left your water bottle in the car. She came back and kissed me on her own again. So, yeah.
There's nothing to corroborate this, by the way. There's nothing to corroborate this. This is something that only he said so far.
Fucking real forced of her.
Okay, well, okay. So, but I guess what I'm trying to ask her okay, so when she was telling you she wanted to go home, you didn't you didn't, like, take her home immediately? Like, how long?
Not immediately. It was, 5 minutes is probably right. Yeah, 5 minutes is probably right. But I just wanted to spend more. And then when she kissed you, you have to understand, like, the 30, like, this is like a big period of time, and it was like 5 minutes to get home. Like, we had plenty of time. She got home 20 minutes early.
Okay, so only after she kissed you did you start taking her home?
I mean, not immediately, but yeah, and like, I was like, okay, I'll take you home, whatever.
But in the 5 minutes of you trying to convince her to stay longer, you didn't mention anything about kissing her.
No. Other than, hey, can I get a kiss?
So you did mention something about.
Just one time.
One time in the 5 minutes while she was trying to.
Yes.
So okay, let me get this straight. So she was trying to say she wanted to go home. You were trying to convince her to spend more time with you, and then mention in between that, telling her to give you a kiss. And then after she gave you the kiss, you took her home.
It wasn't even a tell. It was an ask. I asked, hey, can I get a kiss? And she did it without question, without thinking about it, without pushback, nothing. It was.
I don't think that's true. It just doesn't line up. It just doesn't line up. It doesn't line up. Now, again, Cameron will try to deflect from that criticism by saying that Jelly essentially entrapped him into saying this stuff and took this out of context. Doesn't seem like the case to me, but hey, you be the judge.
It's a patent, consensual fucking kiss.
Isn't it?
I didn't even lean in for one, like she alleged.
But didn't that? Okay, but the kiss happened.
Okay, yes, the kiss happened. I regret just going along with it, and I call in hindsight, I didn't realize that she was manipulatively twisting and describing the situation in a certain way to make me look like shit.
Oh, he's doing it right here. He's doing it right here. He's trying to, again, poison the well on this. Huh. Interesting.
You know, I was just assuming we were talking about something else entirely. And what we were talking...
I was just assuming we were talking about something else entirely? Then why do you in this call say, haven't we been over this before? Haven't we talked about this already? Huh, interesting.
But beforehand, was this whole question of people trying to essentially swat me because it had leaked that this, fling had occurred.
I don't think that he was being swatted, by the way. He was probably being investigated by police, but I don't think he was swatted.
And people were like, had feigned a concern for, police getting involved with her and with me. And I said, well, for me, I didn't do anything wrong.
Huh. You know what this ties back to? Call 3. I mean, hiccup, sorry. Call 2. This feigns back to call 2. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?
Did she have a driver's license, by the way?
I don't fucking know.
Okay. Were you the only way she could get home, right?
I guess. Yeah.
This part is important as well.
Yeah. I mean, she could have, it was like a 5-minute drive, so it couldn't have been that far of a walk.
This is a lie. Allegedly. This is allegedly a lie. It was only a 5-minute drive, so it couldn't have been that far of a walk. According to Dickers, and according to Jelly, it wasn't a 5-minute walk. It was a 5-hour walk and a 45-minute drive. Right here.
Screenshot to Dickers. It was a
Yeah.
5-hour walk.
40-minute drive. 40-minute drive. 5-hour walk.
Dickers corroborates the screenshot
Is
from the Google data around that time.
allegedly where this took place.
Is allegedly where this took place. Again, this is alleged. This is alleged. Take that as you will. Take that as you will.
Wait. He said it was like, he worded like it was basically down the road.
Aiden, this is alleged, okay? We don't have confirmation that this
I
took
know.
place, okay? Just to
It is alleged. It is alleged.
caution you, okay?
I had to get dropped off near my old high school so that I could walk to my grandma's house.
I know it's alleged, but anything he says, I'm now just going to assume the opposite is true. So
Yeah.
Well, time to not include that. Time to not include that. But anyways, take all of that information as you will. Right? He says that he was being somewhat pushy right here. He's saying that that it was a 5-minute walk. Who knows if that's true? That's highly debatable.
If he really felt that scared.
Was this at night?
It was dark out, yeah.
I mean, yeah, for a girl walking alone in the dark at night, like a 5-minute drive.
In a small suburban town, yeah, she's fine. Okay.
No, realistically, she could be fine, but from a young, like walking in the dark would just be like scary for.
And again, if this was a 5-hour walk, 40-minute drive at night, you could argue, and these aren't my words, but you could argue that perhaps there was a level of pressure that she may have felt, a level of uncomfortability where she would need to do something in order to get home as quick as possible, so that she wouldn't just be left alone in the dark if that was the case.
For a teenage girl or whatever. Right?
I guess.
And not to mention, by the way, that hardly anybody like legitimately walks, especially not at night. You're like most people are not gonna just go out of their house and start walking to a location like 10 to 20 minutes away. People don't fucking do that, right? Unless you're particularly active, a large majority of people don't typically just go out and walk somewhere if they need to get to a certain location. The United States is a very car-centric environment. You're not going to just go out and walk somewhere. Most people won't go out and walk somewhere. Even if I have to go somewhere close, I'm going to get in my car. Because it's just much more convenient. And more people feel comfortable in a car traveling to places than traveling while walking due to like how many dangers there are while crossing streets, potentially running into strangers, potentially running into animals or like rough terrain. A lot of people just don't really walk anywhere.
Submit to any, retarded shit. I'm not saying what you were saying is retarded. I'm just saying I'm not going to play into some fucking bullshit narrative because this girl in regards to me is no fucking victim. She's a piece of shit. She's a liar.
Poison the well. Poison the well. She's a piece of shit. She's a liar. I wonder why she's a liar, Cameron.
She's a manipulator.
She's a manipulator? Interesting, because that doesn't seem like that's the case in these calls where you're obviously, or at least according to call 3, at least for my personal judgment, where you're leading her to make certain statements to absolve you of anything.
She's cunning.
She's cunning? Doesn't seem to be the case to me.
And
right here. Right? Let's listen to this back so that we can tie all of this together.
That she was scared. She wanted to go home. She was afraid of missing curfew. And that was like a whole thing. And I just wanted to spend more time with her.
Oh, according to Jelly, by the way, in Dicker's interview, this whole thing about curfew, she said it was something that she made up to Cameron to try to get home quicker, right? Because she was saying that her dad put a curfew on her to try, to try to get him to take her home quicker because he just didn't want to be around him, which makes sense.
And I was being a little pushy.
I'll admit. Not to get a kiss, but to spend more time with her.
Yeah, I'll admit. Not to get a kiss, but to spend more time with her. Very, very important.
Wait, well, because in the call, she says you were pushing her to kiss. Like, she outright says it, so it couldn't be conflated with something else.
Because
she outright says you were trying to kiss her, and you don't deny that.
As she had...
Which corroborates this call, where he says, I just wanted to spend more time with you. I'm sorry for crossing a boundary. Right? It's right here. So this bullshit that he attempts to pull here, where he's like, she was trying to bait me into getting a response out of me, which incriminated me. Bullshit.
You and told you that.
I have long since distanced myself from this person.
Obviously. Not accurate. Not accurate at all. Jelly sent these to me as well, so I can corroborate the validity of these things. But she sent these to, these things to Dickers as well. Right here. Right? Cameron was sending her gifts.
Forget, okay? She's sending him gifts. He's sending her gifts on Steam to get through to her. Check the email. I'm sorry. This is the least I can do. Best wishes, Cam. This is on January 27th, 2024.
I have more of these. I have more of these, and they date between the ending of January, the beginning of March. Right? So, take what he's saying here as you will.
Obviously. Not only were these accusations disproven over a year and a half
Not only were these allegations disproven over a year and a half ago, no, they weren't. You were running a disinformation campaign.
ago. Even the person who made the dogshit video resurfacing these allegations has stated publicly on multiple occasions.
Even the person making this dogshit video resurfacing these allegations. Dogshit video, Cameron? Speak for yourself, retard.
That this girl is a pathological liar, that he doesn't think I sexually assaulted
That this girl is a pathological liar, that he doesn't think that I sexually assaulted her, and then he invokes Diesel.
anyone, and doesn't think I'm some sort of predator.
And to be clear, the reason why Diesel thought that this girl was a pathological liar is because Cameron fed Diesel misinformation. Cameron fed Diesel misinformation. Again, we can tie this back. We can tie this back to my clips. We can tie this back to my clip. Why the fuck is that? What's showing up? Oh, that's because I'm on a different thing. Hold on. We can tie these back to these clips. We can tie these back to these clips. In this call. We can tie these back to these clips. Where Cameron is obviously being apologetic for Jelly. Or sending information to somebody that was not accurate of who she is as a character. So this is bullshit.
I have never sexually assaulted anyone. Which
also, he's trying to cite Diesel, right? Again, by the way, Diesel has denounced Cameron. Diesel has denounced Cameron since then. So he's literally just using misinformation here to make it seem as if the person who levied these allegations and resurfaced these allegations against him has since has admitted that he doesn't think he's a sexual abuser, which again isn't the allegation here. It is not. That's not what the issue is here. The issue is that Cameron is a very slimy, deceptive individual who has admitted to being pushy. Cameron is using clips of me as a vouch. To be clear, I hate him, and neither do I want clips of me to be his support. He's a liar. If Cameron told me he was not the second shooter on the grass knoll, I'd start singing from the rooftops that we got the wrong guy who killed JFK. This is June 3rd. But we have more. We have more, by the way. From way before June 3rd. From way before June 3rd. Almost a week before, as a matter of fact. So my position on Cameron and the events with the woman has changed. Something occurred over the last 2 hours that was absolutely insane. And I know Cameron knows and is about to play defense. This malicious cretin is trying to slip right out of it. May 26th. He is just being incredibly dishonest here. He is misframing everything to try, as FPS Diesel said, slip away from the rightful scrutiny and criticism that he's been receiving.
It's true. I don't believe he did. She has done that in the past, and I would not instantly take her word for anything, right? Which is why I don't think Cameron is some sexual predator, rapist, pedophile.
Noah, this information was public and available long before your stream. What you have done is textbook defamation, and you did it on a much larger platform, ignoring the publicly available facts. That's illegal. If you have any integrity as a content creator, which I don't think you do, you will make a public retraction and an apology. And while I would love—
No, Noah Samsen does not need to make a public retraction. He does not need to apologize. Because upon first inference, if you were to glance at what's actually on what's actually going on with you, I think Noah Samsen is not entirely being defamatory by making the assumption, the opinionated assumption based on the readily available information, that perhaps you may be dubious. I'm not gonna make any claims myself, right? Because it is very important that people take their own make their own opinions and draw their own conclusions.
To do that, I have a feeling you won't, which means Ethan and I have a lot to talk about, given that I have legal options to explore if you can't make this right.
I have legal options to explore that if you can't make this right. No, you don't. You don't understand the legal system. You're a complete moron. What Noah Samsen did isn't defamatory.
Now, Noah, I will give you 14 days from the—
And also, if H3H3 doesn't do a background check on this guy and comes to do all of this research, it'll be a huge shot in the foot once more people start catching on to how malicious Cameron is. Because what I'm talking about right now in this stream is only the tip of the iceberg. It is only the tip of the iceberg, right? This is not even delving into the Krexa allegations. This is not even delving from 5 years ago into how he got into, like, you know, some more lies and even misrepresented Discord screenshots against an individual known as Mr. Apist. This is only the tip of the iceberg into Cameron's long history of being incredibly deceptive, manipulative, and skewing the narrative to fit his gain, to fit his innocence.
The release of this video to issue a public retraction and apology. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, just an honest apology for your slander now that you've seen the correct information. Now,
correct information. None of this information is correct. He's obviously being incredibly dishonest and deceptive here.
Cameron make the stronger claim. This is another example of Cameron accusing someone of something to hide the fact that he is guilty of the accusation he's making. I defamet Jelly. No nor defamet me.
Make the stronger claim. This is another example of Cameron accusing someone of something to hide the fact he is guilty. That's true. He is accusing Noah of defaming him, saying that everything has been disproven, when at best, the allegations were just misinterpreted from the get-go, not necessarily disproven. Okay, the most disgusting thing about CameronF305, based on, again, these clips right here, the most disgusting thing about CameronF305 is not that he essayed somebody, right? Because that's not even the allegation here. The most disgusting thing about CameronF305 is that he used Jelly, a grooming victim, to botch her grooming case. And that is gross to me. That is disgusting to me. That is so fucking disgusting to me. Imagine being so egotistical and full of yourself and so eager to just like save your fucking skin that you use somebody. You fucking throw somebody under the bus. You manipulate them into ruining their own story, into ruining their own credibility, into making themselves seem as unreliable as possible, feeding that tainted information to somebody to ruin a case against Yandere Dev, to ruin a case for her. That's what's fucking disgusting to me. That is what's disgusting to me. That is the grossest thing about that. And in my opinion, that is arguably worse than just the idea. No. That is definitively worse than just the idea of him having sex with somebody that is 2.5 years younger than him. That's all, like, you know, the past 2 hours that we've been streaming all serve as a brief, like, you know, not as a brief, but as I want to say as a good summarization or as a good connection, and like everything being compiled in one place to showcase just how deceptive and manipulative this Cameron guy really is. And if you really want to go above and beyond and confirm for yourself all of these things, I highly suggest going through the calls yourself and looking into some of these cases, looking into like the way that they converse in these that they have conversations about this. This fucking Cameron guy, he cannot be allowed to get away with this. He cannot be allowed to get away with any of this fucking deceit at all, at fucking all. But anyways, that concludes the all-out Cameron war.